Have you ever looked at a snack a child was eating and thought, we never had things like that when I was growing up? Maybe you've caught yourself reading an ingredients label and wondering if it was written in another language. You're not alone. These days, the food landscape is filled with so many processed, sugary, and artificial options that it's hard to know what's actually good for children anymore. And if you're over 60, chances are you've seen quite a few shifts in the way kids eat. Back then, we didn't have drive-thrus on every corner or snacks that came in neon-colored pouches. Meals were simpler, more homemade. But now, many parents and even grandparents find themselves trying to keep up with what's healthy and what's harmful. And if you've ever found yourself packing a lunchbox for a grandchild or preparing dinner for a little one at your house, you know it's not always easy to make the right call. So in this video, we're going to talk about 6 foods every parent, and yes, every grandparent too, should think twice about giving to kids. And more importantly, we'll look at better, healthier, and surprisingly easy alternatives you can serve instead. Because it's not just about saying no to certain foods. It's about knowing what to say yes to. Let's start with something you've probably seen in just about every lunchbox, every vending machine, and every kid's party these days: sugary drinks. You know the kind: brightly colored juice boxes, fizzy sodas, and sports drinks that promise to give kids energy. But here's the truth most people don't talk about: these drinks are packed with sugar, more than a child should have in an entire day. And they don't hydrate the body the way water does. I remember a grandmother telling me how her grandson used to guzzle down orange soda like it was nothing. She thought, it has fruit on the label, how bad can it be? But then she found out that one small bottle had more sugar than a slice of chocolate cake. After that, she started offering flavored water with real fruit slices. He still got that sweet taste, but with none of the sugar crash or hyperactive energy spikes. You'd be surprised how quickly kids adapt when the healthier option is served with love and consistency. A little sliced strawberry in cold water, or a bit of cucumber and mint, it feels fancy, and they enjoy it more than we think. Plus, it's one less thing their little bodies have to work hard to process. Now, let's talk about something that seems innocent enough: breakfast cereals. They come in colorful boxes, often with cartoon characters smiling from the front. Some even say whole grain or fortified with vitamins. But turn that box around and you'll see a wall of sugar and additives hiding in the ingredients list. A lot of cereals marketed to kids are more like desserts than breakfast. They spike blood sugar levels early in the day, leading to energy crashes, crankiness, and trouble focusing, especially in school. And I don't know about you, but I've never met a child who's at their best when they're tired and irritable by 10 a.m. One retired teacher told me she started her mornings with her grandkids by cooking old-fashioned oats. Not the instant kind, but the kind you simmer on the stove. She let the kids pick a topping, maybe banana slices, cinnamon, or a swirl of honey. It became a morning ritual. Not only were the kids calmer and more alert, but she said the bonding time meant more to her than anything. It was simple, affordable, and nourishing, everything a good breakfast should be. And that brings us to something you'll find in almost every child's snack drawer: packaged snack cakes and cookies. You know the ones, sealed in plastic, good for months on a shelf, and filled with ingredients that even we can't pronounce. These treats are tempting because they're easy. No prep, no cleanup, just grab and go. But many of them are full of trans fats, artificial dyes, and more sugar than a child's body knows what to do with. Now, I'm not saying kids can never have a treat. Of course not. But when treats become a daily habit, or worse, a comfort every time a child is upset, they start to lose their joy. A grandmother once told me she started baking with her grandkids once a week. Just once. They'd make simple oatmeal cookies together, using honey instead of sugar. And when the cookies came out of the oven, still warm and smelling of cinnamon, it felt like a celebration. She said, they still got a sweet treat, but it was homemade, and they helped make it. It taught them about food, patience, and that good things don't always come wrapped in plastic. I think there's something really special in that. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. Choosing real food over fake food. Creating memories instead of relying on convenience. Now that we've talked about sugary drinks, cereal, and processed sweets, you can probably already feel the shift. None of these changes are extreme or hard. They just take a little intention, a little time. And the results? Happier, healthier kids. Fewer mood swings. Better digestion. And a stronger bond with the person who prepares their food with care. Now, when we think about feeding kids, especially as grandparents, there's something in us that just wants to spoil them a little. And that's okay, we've earned the right to share treats and celebrate moments. But spoiling with intention, with real food and love, can be just as rewarding as handing over a bag of chips. And speaking of chips, let's talk about that next food to be mindful of: salty, processed snacks. Potato chips, cheese puffs, pretzels, those crunchy little bags are practically built to be addictive. You open one and suddenly it's empty without realizing it. The thing is, most of these snacks are loaded with sodium and unhealthy fats that aren't good for anyone, especially growing children. They don't fill kids up in a meaningful way, and they often leave them thirstier, crankier, and still hungry. I once spoke to a granddad who started noticing how tired and fussy his grandson would get every afternoon after his snack break. When he looked at what the boy was eating, many bags of chips every single day, he decided to try something different. He started offering roasted chickpeas instead, lightly seasoned and crunchy. At first, his grandson gave him a face, as if to say, "What is this?" But after a few tries, he actually started asking for them. Kids may resist new things at first, that's completely normal. But when we keep offering healthy choices without pressure, they begin to trust them. And more than that, they start to associate those foods with comfort and love, especially when they come from us. Let's move on to something that seems healthy on the surface: flavored yogurt. Now this one can be a little tricky, because yogurt sounds like a nutritious choice, and it can be. But many of the yogurts marketed to children are more like dessert in disguise. Packed with sugar, artificial coloring, and even candy toppings, these colorful containers can turn snack time into a sugar bomb. I remember one grandmother who shared that she thought she was giving her granddaughter something healthy by packing those fun little yogurt tubes. But when she read the label, she realized there were more grams of sugar in one serving than a candy bar. So, she started buying plain Greek yogurt instead and let her granddaughter stir in her own fruit, blueberries one day, mashed banana the next. Sometimes even a tiny drizzle of maple syrup to sweeten it naturally. She said the girl loved being in charge of making her snack. And over time, that plain yogurt didn't seem plain at all, it was something they shared together, created together. That's the beauty of it. Food can be more than just fuel, it can be connection. And with kids, especially younger ones, they learn by watching us. When they see us choosing nourishing food and enjoying it, they start to mirror those choices without even realizing it. Now I know what you might be thinking, but my grandchild is a picky eater. They only eat the same few things. And I hear you. Many children go through that phase, and it can be frustrating. But the truth is, their taste buds are always developing. What they reject one week, they might like next week, especially if they see it often enough and in a relaxed, no-pressure environment. One gentle way to introduce new foods is to serve them alongside something familiar. For example, if your grandchild loves pasta, try mixing in a few roasted veggies or blending cooked carrots into the sauce. You're not tricking them, you're expanding their palate in a safe, thoughtful way. And if all else fails? Make it fun. One grandparent told me she made snack faces using apple slices for smiles, raisins for eyes, and peanut butter as glue. Her grandson thought it was hilarious, and he ate more fruit that day than he had in weeks. It's not about turning every snack into an art project. It's just about meeting kids where they are, with a little playfulness and a lot of patience. Trust me, your effort doesn't go unnoticed, even if they don't say it right away. Now that we've touched on salty snacks and overly sweet yogurts, the picture is probably getting clearer. The common thread in all these foods we've talked about? They're convenient, colorful, and heavily marketed to parents who are busy and just trying to get through the day. And who can blame them? Life is hectic. But when we slow down, even just a little, and take a moment to think about what we're putting in front of a child, we have a powerful opportunity to shape their health and their habits for years to come. Sometimes, it's not about making drastic changes. It's about swapping this for that. Chips for homemade popcorn. Sugary yogurt for playing with berries. Processed snacks for fruit slices and nut butter. Small shifts that add up to a big difference. And maybe more than anything, it's about bringing intention back into the kitchen. The way we were raised. The way we used to cook, with care, with time, with stories shared over the stovetop. Because food isn't just about nutrition, it's about legacy. What we serve our kids and grandkids today becomes part of what they remember tomorrow. We've covered a lot of ground already, those salty snacks, sugary yogurts, and how we can start making healthier choices. Now, let's talk about another common culprit, sugary drinks. Oh, how easy it is to hand over a juice box or a can of soda when the kids are thirsty. After all, they look fun, don't they? Bright, colorful, and often marketed with characters that make it even more tempting to reach for. But here's the reality, those sugary drinks are doing far more harm than we might realize. They're loaded with sugars that are almost instantly absorbed into the bloodstream, causing blood sugar spikes and crashes that can leave kids feeling more tired, irritable, and hungry later. Over time, too much sugar in liquid form can even increase their risk of obesity, diabetes, and dental issues. A friend of mine who's a mom of 3 once told me how she switched her kids from sugary drinks to water infused with natural flavors like lemon, cucumber, or mint. It wasn't a quick fix, they weren't jumping for joy at first, but she stuck with it. She kept the water bottles fun, using colorful straws and even letting the kids help choose the ingredients for their special drinks. Slowly but surely, they began to appreciate the fresh, natural flavors. Now, they barely ask for juice anymore, and when they do, it's usually a homemade fruit smoothie with real fruit, no added sugar, and a bit of Greek yogurt. The trick here isn't to be a food police figure, but to lead by example. When kids see us enjoying water or naturally flavored drinks, they're more likely to follow suit. Plus, water is so important for hydration, especially for growing bodies. That's something to remember, especially if your grandkids are active and running around. A bottle of water should be their best friend. Alright, now let's talk about something that's a bit of a double-edged sword, fast food. We all know the convenience of a drive-through meal. It's quick, it's easy, and let's face it, it's sometimes just what we need when there's a little too much going on. But fast food isn't the best option for a child's long-term health. These meals are often packed with unhealthy fats, excess salt, and empty calories that don't offer much in the way of nutrition. I'll tell you a story about my own experience. There was a time when I was raising my kids, and I'll admit, fast food crept into our weekly routine. I thought it was harmless. But then, after a particularly busy week, I noticed the kids were getting tired faster, not eating their usual fruits and veggies, and their energy was dipping by mid-afternoon. It wasn't just the fast food itself, but the lack of real, whole ingredients that took a toll. That's when I decided to make a shift. I started preparing quick homemade versions of fast food. We'd make homemade pizza with whole wheat crust and lots of veggies, or wraps with lean turkey, fresh greens, and hummus. My kids loved it because they felt involved in making the food, and I loved it because I knew exactly what was going into their meals. You don't have to be a gourmet chef to make a simple, healthy, fast meal at home. There are so many easy recipes out there that can be ready in 15 to 20 minutes, and the kids will feel proud that they helped. You might even end up creating a new tradition of cooking together. It's all about making healthier choices a fun experience rather than a chore. Now, let's move on to something that's often labeled as healthy but can be surprisingly harmful, packaged granola bars. These bars are marketed as nutritious, easy snacks, but many of them are packed with sugar, preservatives, and artificial ingredients. Even the ones that advertise themselves as whole grain or low fat often have ingredients that you wouldn't recognize as food. I remember one grandmother who told me her grandkids always loved grabbing a granola bar when they were on the go. But when she looked at the ingredient list, she was shocked to find more sugar in one bar than a slice of cake. So, she started making her own homemade granola bars with oats, honey, and nuts. The kids got involved in the kitchen, and they actually looked forward to their homemade bars more than the store-bought ones. It's an easy swap, and you can get as creative as you want with the ingredients, adding dried fruit, seeds, or even a little bit of dark chocolate if that's something your grandkids enjoy. This is a great reminder that just because something says healthy on the label doesn't always mean it's the best choice. Taking a little extra time to make snacks at home can not only save you money but also give you more control over the ingredients, so you know exactly what your little ones are eating. Lastly, let's talk about refined grains. Things like white bread, white pasta, and other processed carbs can often be hidden in meals that seem innocent enough. They might not be immediately harmful, but over time, they contribute to blood sugar spikes and crashes and don't provide the lasting energy kids need throughout their day. Instead, opt for whole grains. Whole wheat bread, brown rice, and quinoa are great alternatives that are full of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. The transition can be simple. Start by swapping out white bread for whole wheat or making the switch to whole grain pasta. And don't forget about all the fun ways you can work whole grains into meals, like making quinoa bowls with grilled chicken, roasted veggies, and a light vinaigrette. Your grandkids might not even notice the difference, especially if you make the meals colorful and fun. And there you have it, 6 foods to consider avoiding when feeding the kids in your life. But here's the most important part of this conversation: none of these swaps need to feel like sacrifices. You're not depriving them of treats or fun. You're teaching them to make better choices for their health. You're encouraging them to appreciate the power of real, whole foods that nourish their bodies and minds. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about making small, thoughtful changes that will set the foundation for healthier habits in the future. You're the one who can make those healthy meals into family traditions. And over time, your kids and grandkids will start to associate healthy eating with love, connection, and happiness. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories in the comments. What healthy swaps have you tried with your grandkids? What are some of your go-to-easy meals? Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful and hit the subscribe button so you can get more tips and inspiration. Here's to raising healthy, happy kids, one meal at a time.